Remember the good old days? We recreate the good old days. All these ranches lose money. They're all in the red. So it's like, man, if we could sell some hunts and make it easier for these construction guys or whoever to find hunts, and then all of my landowners can make money. We just went and raised some capital and we built this website on Shopify and it went bananas. So we started building that. And then I get a call from a farmer in Kansas and said, hey, do you have land that I can farm? I said, so there's no real platform to find land for farmers. He's like, no. I was like, okay, we're building it. And then these cattle guys like, hey, we're dying to find land to lease for cattle. Like, man, we've got the tiger by the tail.
Just the ability to create those human experiences out on the land and make it accessible for people who otherwise aren't going to go on the trip. And you have one of those experiences and it could completely course correct or change the trajectory of your life.
Amazon started selling books when they first started, and then they started stacking these different verticals. We started selling hunts and fishing trips, and so we're stacking the taxes and then insurance for them because they might need general liability insurance or drought insurance or whatever it is. Make it easy for these people to fulfill their legacy with easy ways to make money or save money on their property. And then all these people that are looking for land, they've got an easy way to dial into these landowners, which keeps wild places wild, and it keeps these families together where they don't have to sell it.
Jonathan, so excited for you to be on the Meat Mafia podcast. We met over at Arena Hall. And it was very clear that we needed to make this happen. So I'm glad that we're finally doing it.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join you, man. This is awesome.
Yeah. Have you done, what's your podcast circuit been like prior to this? Because I'm excited to introduce BirdDog to our audience.
I've done maybe 4 or 5 podcasts. I was really nervous when I did my first. I was like, I'm not sure how to do this or what happens. And I did my first. I was like, okay, this is awesome.
It's a little bit nerve-wracking with the lights and everything, but once you get going, you just start talking naturally.
Yeah.
It's it's great.
It's easy.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to talk about what you've got going on over at BirdDog just because it ties together so much of what we're about on the Meat Mafia podcast. Just this whole movement, we were just talking about the Maha movement, just raising awareness around the health and well-being of our country here in the U.S. And so much of what you're doing is tying back, people to the resources that we have from a land standpoint. BirdDog is a hunting platform, making it more easy for people to go out and find land leases to hunt on. But you guys are thinking so much bigger than that, which I think is so cool. So when I met you over at Arena Hall here in Austin, I was like, dude, we gotta talk. I love what you guys are doing.
Thank
and I
you
think
so
it's one of those things that it's one of those things that if you guys really succeed, there's going to be such a downstream effect that people don't even realize is because of what you guys end up building. So I'm super excited to have connected with you just to build a relationship and be friends, but to just get you on the show is an honor.
Man, I'm honored to be here. I mean, this is a lot of fun. I mean, I've heard a lot about the podcast, and I know you have a huge following, and the messages that you guys spread are very important, and I'm just honored to get to tell our story and be part of it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. What brought me down to Austin was a similar idea and concept to what you guys are building. So I'd love to hear, how you guys came to actually start working on this idea, because I think it's so incredible.
Yeah.
And I think creating more unlocks around how we can get people reconnected with the land is such a beautiful thing. So I'd love to learn just more about the genesis story about you.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. So I grew up in a little town in North Texas called Whitesboro, and my dad's a fisheries biologist, and we got very poor, and I didn't want to be poor anymore, so I went to Wall Street, and it was an Easter weekend, and we went to visit my dad, and we were fishing and swimming in the pond, and we went and got chickens for the kids, and he's got aquaponics set up and had 3 or, it was 4 flower bed or raised gardens. And I was driving home, and I was like, Kat, what are we doing? I want to get a place out in the country. And so we did. And my background is in investment management. And so 2 of my best friends from Texas A&M, Jason Ballard and Evan Loomis, started Icon 3D printing company here in town. And they took some money off the table, and so I managed that for them. And Ballard was like, hey, Lusk, I need you to not just manage my money, but do my taxes and manage my ranch. And I was like, dude, I don't do any of that. That's way too much work. And he's like, just double my fee. I was like, Ballard, you're going to pay me a lot of money. I was like, I guess I'm going to update my resume. So I was looking for an Airbnb for hunting to put his ranch, just to show income in his LLC. And it didn't exist. I couldn't find it. And so I went to him and I was like, hey, man, there's no technology in this. At the same time, my best friend, Taylor Jackson, he's got a construction company. He was trying to find places to take subs hunting. And if they do have websites, they're typically old. They're like 20 years old, or it's like call for pricing. There's no clarity around the process. I was thinking about it from a stewardship perspective of a landowner that said, hey, these families, the ranches are all in a trust. There's typically 5 kids. 1 kid likes to hunt. The rest don't care. And everybody gets capital called for property taxes, insurance and feed bills or whatever. And so and all these ranches lose money. They're all in the red. So it's like, man, if we could sell some hunts and make it easier for these construction guys or whoever to find hunts, and then all of my landowners can make money. So Ballard gave us some money. And then the next month I was hunting with Colt McCoy, and Colt was like, dude, I love this idea. And so he was my second investor. So we just went and raised some capital, and we found 10 ranches that had commercial hunting operations. We hired a photographer and went and got photos of the ranches, talked to the biologist to understand what game that we could hunt. And we built this website, on Shopify, and it went bananas. And so we got a bunch of individuals. What we noticed is like getting into hunting is intimidating because most of the time you think you need to know like a lot before you get into it. And I didn't grow up hunting. So, I grew up, not even fishing. We were like seining ponds, and delivering fish and doing all these things. And I was like, well, there's a huge education component that's important to this. So we started hosting hunters' eds, so like you'd have like the kids that come and sit on the front row, and then the moms and dads that would sit on the back row. And then you would educate everybody, because especially the dad's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, no, you don't, bro. Like, and neither do I. So like, let's stop faking it and actually learn so we can have fun. And then you go out and you shoot, rifles and shotguns, and they're like, hey, Dad, you get up here and load this gun. And then they get comfortable with it. And then we go do these father-son hunts or mother-son hunts or whatever it is. And everybody loved it. And then they would go bring their friends. And then I went on like 22 hunts. I was like, I've got to catch up, So I went on 22 hunts the first year, and I wanted to like understand what the pain points were for these landowners. And you would talk to these guys like, man, I just qualified for this tax credit, or I got, this tax deduction or whatever it is. And I'd go ask their neighbor, and I've never heard of this. And you're like, well, you qualify for this over here. Like, no. I said, man, we've got to aggregate their taxes. We've got to go find out everything that they qualify from a state and federal level. We'll organize it because they're on 5 different websites. And that's a way for them to make and save money. So we started building that. And then I get a call from a farmer in Kansas and said, hey, do you have land that I can farm? We've got over 1 million acres. A lot of it's rangeland, but I bet we can find area for you to farm. And I was like, how does farming work in America? He's like, well, I meet somebody at a coffee shop, and I lease their land. I've got all the carrying costs, and we pay them $1 per acre lease rate. And then I said, so there's no real platform to find land for farmers. He's like, no. I was like, okay, we're building it. And so like we did that, and then, and then these cattle guys like, hey, we're dying to find land to lease for cattle. Like, man, we've got the tiger by the tail. This is the way to think about us is like Amazon started selling books when they first started, and then they started stacking these different verticals. We started selling hunts and fishing trips. And so we're stacking the taxes, and then, insurance for them because they might need general liability insurance or drought insurance or whatever it is. Make it easy for these people to fulfill their legacy with easy ways to make money or save money on their property, whether it's cattle. And then all these people that are looking for land, they've got an easy way to dial into these landowners, which keeps wild places wild, and it keeps these families together where they don't have to sell it. I always joke that we're helping helping the Duttons, keep Yellowstone, keep their ranch.
Yeah.
We're like at scale in different sizes, anywhere from 100 acres right now to 50,000 acres or more.
So where are you guys seeing the biggest opportunity? Because it's amazing just listening to your story, because it seems like it was just green light in terms of like the actual problem that you guys are solving is not just hunting. It's access to land for people who want to run cattle, and just like all the different things that plug in there. You're talking about taxes and helping them with their taxes. It's like it could really turn into something so much bigger than just helping people find land to hunt on.
No, I mean, I think that the hunting is going to be, really important. We've got about 90 properties, U.S., Mexico, Argentina, Africa, about to bring a castle in Scotland. Which I was like, okay, if you guys want to do it, we want to do it. You know? So, the hunting all over the place. I was just in Iowa a couple weeks ago. We signed up 100 farmers. We're going to launch that marketplace in like May, June, something like this.
Nice.
And they're really excited. And they told us about another group that tried this before. Again, just you spend time with people and understand, like, there's a reason these technologies haven't been built. It's because it's relationship first. Like, what is it that we're trying to solve? Because you can't just go, oh, we got this platform of technology and people are going to adopt it. It's like, what's the human aspect of what we're trying to solve? And these farmers were having dinner with them, and one of the guys said, hey, someone else tried to do it, but all the institutions came in and outbid all the local farmers, and we just boycotted it. I was like, well, that's interesting. I was like, well, no institutions on the platform, number one, and number two, we need to do an excellent job of telling your story. Like, maybe you're a third or fourth or fifth generation farmer in Iowa or Kansas or Nebraska or somewhere like that. But you can only afford to offer $30 an acre, and someone else can come get, $50 an acre. How do we tell your story and your family story of why it's important that maybe you can win that business? I can't guarantee it. Like somebody may take the highest price, but they may also believe in you, but that's our job to tell your story. So like farming, throughout, we care deeply about these individual families. Okay. I don't like farms getting rolled up and sold to institutions. Like, I want these individual families, the people who are so important to America, to thrive. And so there's a huge opportunity on the farming side. And then the tax stuff, there's just no easy way to do it. So if you make it, I'll give you an example of one thing we're doing. There's a deal called Section 180 in the tax code. Okay. So if you own land and you are either farming or you're running cattle, doing agriculture on it, and you've bought the place in the last 3 to 5 years, you can take a soil test and you can write a report, and you can take the excess fertility in your soil and get a tax deduction. So we've sent out about $17 million in tax deductions this year.
Wow.
It's like we're in the middle of March. And so most of the people had never heard of it. And we're like, well, it's big in kind of the Midwest and farming, but you can also do it on rangeland. That's one example of like 10 things that we're working on. We're like, hey, here's something that you need to know about that could benefit your family. There's habitat, like wildlife structures, things that you can do that improve the earth. I'm like, we call it conservation capitalism. Like, we care deeply about the planet, deeply about the earth, and the conservation and making it better. But we also think you can make money doing it. And so that's the category that we've kind of created and operate in. And when you bring these families and have the human element together, it's like the family succeeds, their legacy keeps going. The earth is better. The way that we farm and do agriculture is better. And it's just like the timing is just perfect for it.
Yeah, and I think like in the post-COVID world too, you see a lot of people kind of like thinking about, getting more space and moving away from the urban city centers that are loud and kind of almost just like designed to work against our biology, like almost a spiritual awakening in a lot of ways, where people are like, I need to get like reconnected with some of like what you're talking about with like the father-son hunts and just like these experiences that show us that there's a bit more out there. And I think like the disconnection from our land has led to a lot of these health problems in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you this, like going back to my story of growing up in the country and then thinking I wanted this other thing, but really deep in my heart, I wanted it to be on land. And so in 2019, my wife and I, after that trip to go visit my dad, we bought some acreage out in Washington County in between Austin and Houston. And I've got, married and have 3 little kids, and they're running around barefoot. And funny story, my wife called me and she was like, hey, the boys, they're both in their underwear. One, they've got the top of the fish feeder off, and one's like chunking feed into the pond, and the other one's got a dip net because they're trying to catch dinner. And I was like, we succeeded. I was like, this is awesome. To be able to see stars at night and to breathe air, and just the people that I live around out in the country are just like the humanity of it all. like I would assume like my stress level's down like 40 to 50%, which makes me a better human being.
Yeah.
We have a garden where we're making our own vegetables. I've got a fledgling orchard that my deer eat all of my fruit, but we got chickens and we got this like little tractor, so we have like natural fertilization. And you know, a lot people are like, things that stress a lot of people out are different from what stresses me out.
Right.
Like I'm trying to grow like oak trees and flowers and like you know, like native grasses, you know, but it kind of changes your tune. And I also understand the difficulties of like maintaining a property out in the country, which is given me a lot of insight into what other people, both like the positive aspects of like the just the mental acuity or like the healing that you get from, you know, being out in nature, but also how do we make it better?
Yeah.
And be a part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we talked about when we first met over at Arena Hall, and you brought it up a little bit, was just the ability to like create those human experiences out on the land and make it accessible for people who otherwise like aren't going to go on the trip, and make it just very approachable for people to have that type of experience. And you have one of those experiences, and it could like completely course correct or change the trajectory of your life, like where you're just like, okay, I've been working the job in the city, grown numb to just like my routine, and I've lost this connection with this greater purpose. And then you get out in the quiet country and you just get to sit with your thoughts, your family, an experience, and just like be with God. And I think that type of experience is what's I think created a little bit of a divide between urban and rural areas in the U.S. And I think there's something special to what you're building is what I'm trying to get at. It's like it does create this access to these nature that I think a lot of people just struggle to get because they're, you know, living in those urban environments that just pull them away.
Yeah. Two things that come to mind when you say that is my buddy Carlos. He took his son on a father-son hunt, and they harvested, I think it was a hind, a red hind. And he came up to me at the end of the trip and was like, "Hey, Lusk, like this was life-changing for me." It wasn't like, "Hey man, this was a great time." He's like, "No, this was life-changing. I never would have that experience with my son. I could never have done this on my own had I not found this." And then the whole thing with my son, because like on father-son hunts or mother-daughter hunts, like sometimes it's hard to start conversations with your kids and know what to talk about. So we have like these parenting books that we'll give away. And we also do like questions you can ask your kids around the campfire to like facilitate the humanity of it all. And really it's around the campfire where those conversations, because you're always on our phones, and like you can put it down for a moment and like get back to humanity and talking to people. That's one example. My buddy Chad and his wife went to Africa on one of our hunts, and he was in a bow blind all day by himself, and he worked for Big Law and came back and quit his job and started his own law firm.
Really?
And he's crushing it. And
wow.
But it was one of those things like, it's scary to make a change.
Right.
But he was like, I have to. Like, I'm just at peace. And both of these families live in the city, and we're able to easily access these opportunities, one in Africa and one in Central Texas, to go do exactly that. I always think about, there's a lot of country songs that are written about this, but you go like, when you were little, like life was so simple, and maybe you were at your grandparents' house, and like you're taking a nap, and then you wake up and grandma's cooking something, and there's like pie, and you're running through the sprinklers.
Yep.
And then life gets very complicated. And there's a lot of things that pull at you every day, and you're like, remember the good old days? I go, when I figured out that's what we do. We recreate the good old days. And we actually use technology to get people off technology, but it allows them to easily find these things, these experiences, and go on them. And it's been like 700 or 800, experiences that we've done, and all 5-star ratings. And the feedback is the joy that we get, where you think it's one thing, but it's something very, very different, which is life change.
How does that sit with you as the founder of this? Because I'm sure you were kind of thinking about the downstream effects obviously like the downstream effects of what you're building is, land management, access to hunts, all this stuff. But actually, like, impacting someone like your friend who's quitting his job after having an experience like that. I mean, it's truly life-changing for people.
We want to tell their stories, to the broader community, but also I want my team to understand what we're doing as we grow. You're like, what you're doing is worthy, and it's impactful, and it's impactful for our planet. It's impactful for these families, the human beings that kind of run the earth. And it's obviously way bigger than I ever anticipated. We're thinking we need like a public tee time system for golf, but for hunting was the idea. Like clarity around photos and ratings and reviews and pricing, and then go book it, and then go the experience. And you've got different locations and different price points. But like what it really is about is creating this community of people that when you enter in to a BirdDog experience or just with us, like your life is impacted. That's really cool. And people all the time, we had this fishing hosted trip for this corporate group last weekend. And the guy was like, "Hey, unbelievable, executed. Like we'll have live music there. Like we want people to feel at home, and the impact is something that I never saw coming, but it like really fuels us, and gives us a lot of energy to go. What we're doing matters."
What was it you think that got someone like Colt McCoy excited about being involved with what you guys were doing? Like, what did he see in what you guys were building?
What he told me was that he had seen some other things like this where you could rent ranches, but there wasn't hunting involved. And he was like, "So you're going to do hunting and fishing?" And he grew up in Tuscola, Texas, Jim Ned High School, and was like, "Hey, I want to be a part of this. There's no one doing this. It's a great idea, and it's what I love doing, hunting and fishing." And so he's like, "Here's my cell phone, call me." And I called him the next day. He's like, "I'm in, talk to my guy and get the paperwork signed and wire in." And then he's like, "If you ever need any help at all." And I went to A&M, and we joke, we're like Aggies and Longhorns bringing world peace through hunting. Yeah. But I'm like, he's been so helpful and a great friend of mine. Retired from the NFL, and now he's calling, Big Ten games, and they live up in North Texas now. But he loves it. And it was funny, going back to the idea that I didn't grow up hunting, but I had this like wealth management background. So I knew how I wanted people to feel on these experiences. And I was like, "Hey man," like I was walking one day and I was like, "Wouldn't it be cool if we had musicians come and play around the campfire?" And I was like, "Let's get some, Texas country music singers to come." And I was like, "Hey man, do you know any Texas country music singers?" And he's like, "I know them all." I was like, "Well, dude, hook me up." So he hooked me with Pat Green. So I talked to Pat and did an equity deal with Pat. And he's like, "This is a great idea." And then I talked to Roger Krager, and Krager was all in, and we do a bunch of stuff with Josh Abbott. And what'll happen is it'll be a group of 8 or 14 people that go up, for the hunt or the fishing trip, and then come in, and we'll have a meal and hang around the campfire. And those guys will play for 90 minutes for like 10 people. And here's the background on this story, or this song, and here's what was going on. So Colt's been super helpful there, and just he's been great. Like he's a wonderful man.
From a business building standpoint, how important is it to have somebody like that on board early who can kind of just like sprinkle a little bit of extra juice on what you guys are doing? Like having country music stars come out and sing around a campfire is so cool.
When you have guys like Colt and Case Keenum as an investor, and like my cap table is basically all these guys who are like ranch owners and business owners and users of the product, where they have ranches that are on the platform, or they've got corporate groups they're going to hunt. And then you've got these big names who believe in you, and then you become friends with them. I mean, it says a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, here's funny is like, when we're raising capital, and I know they're a Longhorn. I'm like, "Hey, Colt, can you make a video, for Steve?" He'll go, "Hey, Steve, Colt McCoy here. I know Lusk is an Aggie, but, we're all one big family at BirdDog. Hope you can join the team, man." And the guy's like, send me wire instructions right now. I'm like, "Dude," "Thank you so much, Colt." But those guys are like super helpful, and it's meaningful. I mean, I'm very thankful for those relationships.
Yeah, I feel like just at the beginning, the onset of going after like such a a noble mission like you guys have, you need those early people who really like use the product, but also just believe in the mission and are able to pull in resources as well.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah. It's been huge for us.
Is there, have there been any setbacks in terms of just like those early days in building the business, just like founder stories where you're like, man, this is maybe I've bitten off more than I can chew with this thing?
Well, we started the business in like the absolute worst time you could ever start it, which was 2022, with interest rates really high, because like 70% of our hunters are corporate groups. Okay. So like, not to get into too much finance, but it's like, all that debt for the businesses, floating rate debt. So like that, they basically cut their hunting budgets. And that was really hard. But what it allowed us to do is to go increase our supply side. Because these ranches when we first started, people were like, oh, we're full, we don't need you. And I'm like, give us one weekend. Give us like a week. Give us a month. Yeah. They're like, no, we're full. I'm like, I know you're not full. They're like, okay, we're not totally full, but so we were able to add, I think our first year we had maybe 15 or 20 ranches. And then, the second year we added another 30 or something. We're like, I think we're 80 or 90, something like that right now. But and now it's back. And if we had not started at that time, there's no way we could have gotten the supply. And now we've got a reputation as like a trustworthy partner.
Right.
And we built the software now. So this landowner portal, the landowners can log into it. They can sell hunts. We have all the data to understand what people want to buy. So you may be a landowner going, I'm going to sell this 200-inch deer. You're like, well, you should probably sell a doe and a 145-inch deer, because that's what the data says that people actually want.
Interesting.
Or, people really want to hunt oryx right now. And then we can help you buy those animals or and replenish them or whatever. So allowing them to get really smart about the hunts that they're selling or the fishing trips that they're selling in that landowner portal. It's also important that, these ranches are owned in LLCs. And so it's like, okay, you now have an operating business. And so if you sell this ranch to somebody else, they can log in and like, hey, I'm doing a couple $100,000 in revenue. My expenses are such and such. And it's a very smart way for you to manage that land going forward because we've organized it for you. But the setback, it was frustrating because early on, we're like, man, we should be getting more conversions, more people. And you're like, the guys are like, what we saw happen, like maybe you booked a hunt in South Dakota for pheasant and we could get you on a quail hunt in the panhandle of Texas, early on. So their budget was lower, but that was probably the biggest surprise, is like the supply side was a lot easier than the demand side early on.
It's really fascinating to me thinking through how you guys will continue to grow that supply side in the way that you will do it in the beginning, which is like handshake at a time, calling those people up, being like, give us a weekend. And that's like where you kind of get that lead in and build the trust with these landowners, which I imagine they're almost like a union in themselves. Like you're talking about the group that started before you guys that failed.
Yeah.
Like they basically lost the trust of the landowner union, and now you're gone.
Yeah. Now we're getting to self-serve. So now we've got the thing that really was meaningful for us was last year we did a partnership with Field and Stream magazine, and it was bought by a group, including like Morgan Wallen and Eric Church, and their CEO Doug McNamee. There was a bunch of guys like, you guys got to meet, and he used to run Magnolia for Chip and Jonah Gaines in Waco. And so I went to Waco and met with Doug, and we're both very intense human beings. It was like a 5-hour meeting in 2 hours. And he was like, can you build a website that's co-branded so that my readers can go on hunting and fishing trips? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it in about 3 days. He's like, oh, that's too soon. We got to let's launch it. I was like, okay, let's do it. So we launched it, and Fox Business picked it up, which was huge. And we probably picked up, 15 new properties in 7 states. And started getting the word out nationally. Because I think about when you have these business, you either have like a really, like you either have a total addressable market problem, or you have like a mess, like people don't know who you are. And our addressable market is like immeasurable. So like actually people understanding who we are and what we do and how they can dial in with our services is what we've worked really hard on, the last 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue to grow. But what you want to do is have the same mentality and messaging of the handshake deal in everything that you do, because that's actually what your culture is and who you want to be about. It's probably going to be a lot harder at scale when you have 1,000 properties or something like that. But not all these properties that we can serve want to sell hunts. Not all of them want to run cattle. Some, they all need the tax help, but maybe he's like, hey, we just want to have access for farming on our property, or we want to do it all. But we can offer a solution for whatever that family needs if they want to work with us.
I think it points back to what you were saying earlier on storytelling and really like telling some of these stories about the landowners that you guys have on the platform already. When you were saying that, I'm thinking of like Yeti and Huckberry, and they're like those Austin brands that are just so good at storytelling. I feel like that's kind of like the direction that you guys might be heading in, if I'm just like almost seeing that like for you guys, like just being able to tell those stories, the success stories of like what the platform is actually trying to do. Because we were talking about it a little bit before, but just like the clarity of the message and being able to resonate with both sides of the people who are looking for the solutions on the demand side, like going for hunts, but also, these landowners. It's a difficult message to like easily communicate, I feel like.
Yeah, and the messages are different. So what you want to tell someone who's trying to sell hunts is different from a farmer, is different from a hunter, is different from a fisherman, is different from a fishing guide. And so you have these different segments that you're like, okay, what is important to these people? Who can we help? Who can we not help? Like we're solely focused on the landowner. That's our client. And so how can we help as many landowners? We started in Texas, and then it's like now we're in the US, but like what are these? We've got hunting places all over the world. How can we help them on farming? How can we help them these other things in the future? And what is the message that really resonates with them? But the storytelling is important for multiple reasons. Number one, because they have a story to tell that people may not hear. And that's our opportunity to go share that with everyone. And now with social media and these different ways to market, you can get that message out, because I think we're going from more like corporate institution, like down to like, who are these individuals and these families? They're like really, really important. And like, how do you do that at scale? How do you tell their stories and then help them at scale? And then when they have success, we're going to have success, and we're totally aligned with them. And that's conservation capitalism. I go back to it all the time. It's like about their legacy. Like, how do you help them achieve their legacy with these families? How do you make the earth better? And then how do you make money doing it? And if you have all those things together, where these guys can pay their bills and they can keep that wild place wild and make the earth better and like make better products and farm better. Like that's what we're trying to achieve. It's hard. It's very hard, but it's worthy.
So all of those different avenues that you guys are building out, would you say that the conservation capitalism and keeping wild things wild, like that's your core message, what you guys are going to continue to build around and scale around?
That's exactly right. That's what we're all about. And our tagline that we created was like, your land, your legacy. And so like what I've learned is, just like in hunting, there's also an education of like, how do we farm better? Like, what are better practices? Like with like the MAHA movement, like and USDA, what is going to come down the pike that we can then take from a private capital perspective and go say, here's what's coming down. Here's like an easy way for you to understand it, and then here's how you can implement it. Right. Like that's what we want to do. What are the farming practices? Right now, if you want to go from just traditional farming to regenerative farming, it's like if any pesticides have touched something, you've got to wait 3 years. That's very challenging on startup costs. If you want to make the transition, there's a distribution problem. Yeah. How do I get my product to market if I'm not making it at scale? Yeah. How do I get insurance coverage for organic products? Because if my crop fails, then, how can I make that work for my family? It's very expensive. Like, how do we make these things easier? And then once we figure out how the game's played, we can then go take the message, just like we started with education and hunting, and then get people to experience it. We get folks educated, and then we start implementing these things. And you go, like, I want to go into Walmart and like, it's all organic food. Yeah. Not just exactly. Like one
it's all regenerative.
Yeah. Regenerative. Yeah. It's like not just one tiny section, right? But you're like, no, regenerative farming is what everybody does now. And BirdDog was like the player that helped us get there.
I think that you guys are working on solving potentially the biggest problem out there. Like what you're saying, it's the access to this land, but also like every piece of information down to like the end consumer realizing that like right now there's limited supply of regenerative resources because of all these reasons, and that's why it's expensive. So right now, anyone who's buying regenerative, it's probably mostly like the high-end tail of the market who just has the financial resources to buy that way. But then also like over time, the only way for those prices to come down is for access to land and to these practices, which are like you went to A&M.
Yeah.
The schools are teaching the conventional industrial model of agriculture. They're teaching people how to get overburdened with debt and then spray pesticides on their land, and then the flywheel starts and it doesn't stop until you're 50 years down the road, and your land is just completely degraded because all you've done is just collect corn subsidies on your land, and so this whole other way of practicing, like we've had Joel Salatin on the pod and Will Harris on the podcast, and they had to make decisions at one point to like break from that model, and I don't think it was a comfortable decision, but like break away from the conventional model and take on some financial risk in order to stop using pesticides, but to eventually be able to build up a model that was self-insulated. And I think if you talk, from our conversation with Will, they're still trying to figure out how to close loops within that ecosystem of farming. But it all comes back to access between consumer and like the landowners at the end of the day. That's the biggest problem that I think needs to get fixed if you want Walmart to be going regenerative.
And those guys are heroes for doing it. Think about it. It's like, think about them making those decisions when in the time in history where they've got to make those. Yeah. Now think about the future where you have the Maha movement and you've got, Brooke Rollins at USDA, and you've got these people in Trump that like deeply care about these things and want to make a change. I think the policies are going to make it easier to do it. I'm telling you, a lot of these farmers on the individual side, if you made it easy for them, to make a transition and they could make money, because they're not making money right now. Commodity prices are like not very good. Like the institutions aren't going to love it.
Yeah.
But these people would go, yeah, I'll change tomorrow if it means that I could, support my family and make the earth a better place. It's like they'll tell you all the problems that to make that transition. So if you can make it easier, and I think it's only going to get easier. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to get easier. And then, but when the information comes out, if there's a way to take that information and get directly to the farmer, get directly to the landowner, that's what I think is going to be most impactful. And it may be like slowly getting this stuff out, but I always tell the team, I'm like, we have got to be the leaders in this. Like we have used AI both from an efficiency perspective, but also from a coding perspective, but also for like an information. Like how do we process everything that's coming out immediately and then synthesize it in a clear message to each of these groups of people so they can get educated, but also, go accomplish whatever they want to accomplish on their land. I think that's going to be a big role that we play. Where before it might be like an FSA agent or a USDA agent, that's in every county. Like, God bless them, but they don't always know everything that those organizations have to offer to the landowner.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's their fault, but I'm saying like, what we have to offer is to go directly to that landowner, and then they can go log in and say, or an email that we have, it's like, here's what you need to know about your specific part in this county, in this state, in America, and here's what you can take advantage of, and here's how you can do this process, and here's what's coming towards you. We can synthesize a lot of data and a lot of information and provide clarity for those families.
It's so interesting. Yeah, I feel like one of the things that your guys' model I think is really important in doing is connecting the hunting and the ag, because I think about land utilization and conservation. Like the model that we have now is very extractive to the land, but you guys are working in a way that's, I think, hunting and farming in order to actually like utilize the land in a way that you're stewarding it forward and being able to actually put those nutrients back in the soil, but also make it economically viable. Like you have to do a little bit more on that land to get be able to support it. Like, every time I've been hunting it, there's cattle running on the way in
Right.
too,
Right.
It's like, utilizing it in a way where you're able to make money off it, and then, use that money to pour it into better practices maybe, or if you're already doing things the right way, like scaling that business up.
The, to that point, we were running the Section 180 play on the soil fertility program, and there was this big landowner, and he's in Kansas, like 60,000 acres big. They run like 50,000 head of cattle up there.
Jeez.
And it's a big operation, and we're helping him with Section 180. And I was like, hey, are you guys doing anything on the carbon tax credit side? And he's like, no, man, the guy came out and, didn't get along with my ranch manager. I was like, so it's a personality thing? And he's like, yeah. And he just told us all the things we had to do. And I was like, okay. So I run it through the filter of conservation capitalism. And I go, man, like when you think about capitalists, they want options, not obligations. So they don't want to be told what to do. Like these are like landowners, like pull myself up by my bootstraps. My grandfather taught me this. And I was like, well, what if you said, hey, you're running these cattle, like here's the program, and you could make, $15 an acre in perpetuity if you just keep doing what you're doing. And here's the paperwork. We'll make it very easy, all these things. And then here's a program where people are going to, check in, low maintenance. You could make $25 an acre if you did these other things. You don't have to do anything. But just the messaging, that simple messaging that you have the option but not obligation to do these things, the guy's probably going to choose the $15, an acre opportunity, and it's going to make like really good practices. And here are the things that you can do. It's like an education, but not an obligation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, a lot of this is messaging. It's like understanding, educating, and messaging. And then people are like, yeah, I want to do that. You're telling me if I did regenerative ag and I could make, twice as much money, and it makes my soil better and replenishes it, and it's good for humanity, and it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg to do this. We're like, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Like, well, let's do it. Like, who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, it's just a win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Yeah. More of a business question, but have you found it easy to find people to hire who understand the message, who are willing to go to Kansas and shake the hands of the people who are not doing the carbon tax credits, but should be? Like, there's just such a human element to what you guys are doing. Like, you guys are building a software and a platform, but there is just still that underlying human element that I feel like is so important for your guys' success.
Oh, yeah. I mean, our team, this is the best culture I've ever worked with in my life. And everybody is fun and hardworking and smart and are on mission. And I think like the younger generation wants to be a part of something that matters, that's making an impact. And so they can come in and see that it actually does, and it's fun. And so we have a lot of talent. I think we've got like 35 people on the team now. And we've got these, because right now it's, it starts out, okay, you've got this hunting marketplace, right? And now we built this software, this landowner portal, where the landowners can log in and they can take the link to their site and go share it with all the hunters that they're selling. And it's a much better experience for anybody who's going to book versus like, hey, use a yellow pad. Right. You coming to hunt? Are you doing these things with me? And then we've got a group that's going to sell to corporate groups. Hey, bring your 10 guys. Let's go do this. But in the future, it's an account management model where they've got 50 farmers, ranchers, whoever, that they're going to check in to see how can we make this product better. We see you're using it over here. I'm making up these numbers, but like, people who use this function make 25% more money or whatever it is. Like, we'll figure all of those things out. But you look for and you attract these high EQ people who like love people well and love their jobs. And like some of them are ag-minded and others aren't. But every time I talk to somebody who wants to work with us, if they're A players, I'm not very good working with B players, but like if they're on it and squared away and high EQ, like you'll get hired if you come out of that meeting going like, I'll do whatever it takes. And it's very binary. Like some guys are, oh, you're one thing I'm thinking about. I just tell the guys we're not hiring them. Like we're not one thing. Like and that's okay. Like we want people who are fired up about the mission and excited. And I think we hired like 4 new people the last 2 weeks. Yeah, something like that. And so like we're getting a lot of talent, and it's a lot of young people who are like, hey, I can go out on the road. I can go meet with this person. I can go sell this. I understand. Because I'm like, it's going to change in about 3 weeks. I'm going to ask you to do something different. You've got to be flexible because that's where we're going. So the talent has been super easy because our message is very clear.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like when you guys are building something that's audacious, it's a big vision, having the right people on board who understand the mission and just understand the commitment level that comes with that. Like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this succeed is so important when hiring people.
Oh yeah, and it's a lot of the folks are, you know, a lot of them are from small towns or just humble backgrounds, or they've been through a challenge in their life that they've had to overcome, like all of us, you know, and they're just good people. They're just good people, you know, humble, hardworking, you know, on mission with us. And so, yeah, we've been fortunate to get the talent we have. We are.
Do you think it's important that you guys are based out of Austin or even just Texas?
Well, a lot of people wanted us to move our headquarters to Austin. I said no, because I live in Chapel Hill, Texas. I actually live in Washington, Texas, Washington on the Brazos, which was the first capital of the Republic of Texas, 1836. And so people were like, hey, man, we want you to move to Austin, HQ here. I was like, no. So I'm buying a building in downtown Chapel Hill, and everybody's relocating there.
Nice.
It's harder for engineering talent, but we have engineers all over the place. We got about 20 engineers. But you kind of want to keep those guys away from your sales team because they'll just bug them all the time. But sales and marketing all together. And you know, I'm actually reincorporating the company from Delaware to Texas.
Nice.
And people are like, well, what's your exit strategy? I was like, we'll sell, or, you know, I was like, it'd be really cool to IPO on the Texas Stock Exchange.
It's coming here.
It's coming, yeah. Jim Lee's CEO. He's a great guy. But it's like, I was like, how awesome would it be to like fire the cannon instead of ringing a bell? But we're Texas at the heart of who we are, and we're Texans. But we're going to serve the whole country. We've got on our carbon play, we've got 4 people in Iowa. They got doged from USDA, and we're like, we'll take you, you know? And so that's what Trump and those guys want. They want people to be in private business. And we're like, hey, we're open for business. If you can add value to these landowners and we can integrate it into our software platform, we want you.
Yeah.
And we'll find a way to make it work. And so that's how we've been able to create these, I call it like an incubator, building $1 billion businesses inside of BirdDog. So you have like the hunting vertical, the fishing vertical, the tax vertical, the farming vertical, the cattle. I'm working on some software for mineral rights and water rights, so you can understand the value of these things. So you know, like anything that touches your land, you're like, okay, this is the value of what I have, and then I have these levers that I can pull to make or save money if I choose to.
So when did you guys launch?
We came up with the idea in January of 2022, and we launched the site in August of 2022.
Wow. Has it surprised you how quickly all of this has come together?
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's wild because early on you've got to go raise capital, and you have to suspend reality as an entrepreneur, and have a vision, and then bring people on that catch the vision. And so there's some subset of people who get it, and so it's just like capital. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to invest in us that don't know who we are, and we don't know who they are. There's a lot of people that want to work with us that we don't know who they are, and they don't know who we are. And so we're solving that right now. But like as a visionary, you have to, like I said, suspend reality and go, this is what it could be. And then we just thought it was like hunting, you know, and then it was like, there's so many more problems that we can solve. And it was just people coming to us going, hey man, could you build this into the product? And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Or, hey, this doesn't make sense right now, but this one does. Let's go build these things. And then what's really sweet is when you start like getting customers, and then you start a new line, and like they, pay you to do it. It's like being up in Iowa and sign up 100 farmers, going like, this is awesome. And I was flying back with Michael Cotter, who's like my chief revenue officer. And he's working on a lot of products. Like he organizes them, makes them efficient, and then hands it off to our CTO, who builds a technology around it, and then hands it to our marketing group, who markets it. And we're flying back, and we're both just exhausted. And I was like, we just got 100 farmers. He's like, I know it's cool. I'm working on this carbon play and I'm working on, this insurance deal that we're trying to get done. I was like, we got to celebrate. I was like, what we're doing, it's coming so fast, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That like you have to step back and celebrate the wins because there's so many of them. So.
Have you always been kind of that visionary? Like you said, you were on Wall Street before. Do you always feel like you had that ability to kind of cast a big vision for, a company like this?
I've always been a maverick. And I didn't know.
Just the cowboy spirit?
Cowboy spirit of like, I've had the vision, but I'm not good at doing it in a way that other people want me to do it because I see it a different way. I'm like, tell me what you want me to accomplish and let me go do it the way that I think would be most efficient. All right. And so, I work for AT&T, 300,000 employees, Goldman, 30,000 employees. I worked for a group that spun out of Goldman that was like 30 to 50 people. And I just wasn't satisfied. Like my boss would come in my office at like 2:00 and it's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm pretending like I'm busy because I was done at 11 o'clock. Like, I hate this. I want to go work out and then like just chill and then go meet people and do these things, but it's not acceptable in the corporate market. And so just that dissatisfaction of like the way it was, I was like, I need to just go start my own deal. And so I stepped out when I was 34 and started my first company. I was like, oh, this makes me come alive. Like I just want to take care of customers.
Yeah.
And what do they want? Not what does like whatever want. Like I'm just going to focus on you. And then that thing was, successful. And I thought that's what I was going to do. I thought I was going to be a money manager my whole life. But really, that prepared me to be able to speak to these landowners about things that matter to them. It's almost like an education,
right?
To start BirdDog. And I've like in that other business, I'm, selling right now, but I've got one employee. And I was like, I just didn't want to deal with a lot of people and all their problems and all the things where people are, don't want to do this. And I'm mad at this person. But now we've got so many employees, like I feel called, to lead them. And I'm 43 years old. And I'll tell you, like, I've never been more at peace or more on mission in my life with the Lord, with my wife, with my children, and what I'm doing on this mission with the people that I'm working with. I am a free man. And when you're free, you're bulletproof. You just like go build and you go bring people along. And I have like 15 fires a day that I've got to put out. It's like what Elon talks about where you're basically like staring in the abyss and chewing glass.
Yeah.
That's what I do like most of the time because I'm like working on hard things every day. But I go to bed at night like with a clear head and like total peace and I sleep like a baby knowing that like what we're doing matters.
That's amazing. I feel like from the outside looking in too, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you're totally playing in your lane right now of just being able to be a visionary and cast that vision and maintain that focus on the things that you need to. And then you have the right people in place who can come in and take stuff off your plate. So, you don't get necessarily bogged down with things that aren't vision focused.
Right. I mean, I didn't know what an integrator was until I read Rocket Fuel, And I was like, I need an integrator. I am not an integrator. I am a visionary. And so seeing those opportunities to hire integrators, like operators, to go, hey, take the vision, but I'm not naturally going to go do these things that I'm not good at. I need to spend most of my time doing these other things. And I heard this guy speak at an event, and he was CEO that he'd taken over for this company, and they were like, you guys have doubled or tripled profit or whatever it is, and like, what is it that makes you such a great CEO? He's like, well, it took me about a year to figure it out. But what I learned is my role as CEO is like, I've got a bunch of partners. So I got to understand what each of them want. He said, my job is to cast vision. It's to make sure that we have enough capital, and I'm a glorified HR manager.
Yeah.
And that's what I talk about. I'm like, I literally like make sure we have capital. I cast the vision as a visionary. And I go get the right people on the bus, and then I let them loose. And so I've got friends. I'm like, hey, how many hunts you guys have going on, or who are, what's going on over here? I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, it's a lot. I was like, well, where is this at? I was like, I don't know. Let me check in with them and see. And they're like, they're moving so faster than what I thought. Because they're really good, and we use AI to build a lot of things now. So things are moving very quickly.
It's so exciting seeing what you guys are building. So excited to get out on one of your guys' hunts at some point and just experience it for
myself. Love to have you,
man. But just kudos to you for casting that vision and building the team and going after it. I think it's going to solve an incredibly big problem. And I'm excited to be able to hype you guys up and promote you, and now just call you a friend. So appreciate you coming on the show. Where can people find you?
All right.
And learn more about BirdDog?
BirdDogIt.com.
Ooh.
BirdDog it. That's what it says.
I love it.
Venmo me, Google it, BirdDog it. And then we're at Hunt BirdDog on Instagram and all the socials. So we'd love to host folks on hunts or fishing trips. If you're a landowner, would love the opportunity to serve you and have you sign up for our software and grow with us. We'd love your family to partner with us and grow together. But that's where you can find us. And I'm thankful to be here, Harry, and Meat Mafia and what you guys have built. It's very impressive. And so just an honor to be on your platform.
Yeah, thank you. And there's plenty of landowners listening to the show, so I hope they reach out and connect. As you're talking, I'm like, I got to connect you to this guy and this guy. So, yeah.
We'll take care of them.
Sweet. I love it. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, brother.